Hi, everyone. Welcome to the 19th episode of Genealogy Pep Talk, a podcast. My name is Suzanne, and I'm a senior library specialist with the Arapahoe Libraries here in Colorado. I have two other staff members with me who are my fellow co-hosts of this podcast. There is Cindy, the library specialist, and Katie, the career services librarian. Hi, ladies.
Hello.
But Cindy is not here today. She must have won that elusive lottery.
The day off lottery?
Right. This podcast, by the way, is about gathering some tips and tricks for your family search journey for whenever you get stuck on searching for an ancestor, because it does happen. We also share with you some experiences of our own, along with anecdotes and stories in researching our own families. Today's episode is a different one. In the past, we have chatted amongst the three of us, Cindy, Katie, and myself, and then we added guest stars, who are our fellow staff members. And now we will be chatting with a patron. Patron Jean, and patron is not her first name, but Jean and I have chatted on and off in the library for years, and one day we were talking about genealogy. And I mentioned the podcast and that how we have wanted to hear about patrons' families' histories. And Jean piped up and said that she was interested in being our test pilot. And so here we are, blasting off. Okay. Hi, Jean.
Hi.
So let's get into this, as the kids like to say. Were you born in Colorado, or are you from someplace else?
Oh, someplace else. My dad was in the Air Force, so we lived all over. And as our Air Force used to call ourselves Air Force brats, we moved every 4 years. And so to make friends, the first thing you did was ask them, where were you born? Where are you from? Did you live in the United States? What countries have you lived in? What rank is your dad? Those are really important questions for a little elementary kid.
I bet it is.
Yeah. So, but my family of origin is Duluth, Minnesota. Mm-hmm. And so that's where all my grandparents came. They were immigrants. And then I was born in Wichita, Kansas. And then we've just lived all over.
Got it. And how long have you been here in Colorado?
Oh, my gosh, 1978.
Wow. That's a long
I remember,
time.
We watched the Super Bowl, and we were in Alabama, Montgomery, Alabama. And my dad said, we're moving to Colorado. And all we knew was Coors. That's it. We just knew Coors beer and mountains.
Wow. Okay. Which is funny because I used to live in Golden. So I was just kind of a few blocks down the road from it. And let me tell you, when they're processing, it does not smell delightful. It's like weird old cantaloupe.
Yes.
To be honest.
Fermented, yeah.
But good memories. Okay. So you've lived here since 1978.
Yes.
And let's ask this. Who is your progenitor, meaning who is your immigrant ancestor on your paternal side?
Okay. So my father's dad came from Cornwall, England, Plymouth, England. Okay. And he came in the 20s, I think like 1921. And then his wife, my grandmother Elizabeth, came from Glasgow, Scotland.
Oh, nice.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So you're kind of Anglo-Saxon.
Yes.
On one side.
Yes.
Okay. Now, where's your mother from?
My mother's from Duluth, Minnesota, and her parents were from Finland and Sweden.
Okay.
And they were immigrants.
Got it. So they're the immigrant ancestor. Mm-hmm. Okay. Do you have a year when they came over?
My grandfather, I think it was 1921. My grandmother was a bit later, somewhere in the 20s.
Okay.
Yeah. And then on my Finnish-Swedish side, oh my goodness, that's a little, I asked my mom recently, I think it was the 20s, but my grandfather was he was young. He was 17, wanted to get away from Finland. He had lots of brothers. He would talk, I think I mentioned this once. Yeah. He talked about how much he despised or hated Russian and Catholic people. And I never understood that. I didn't understand. And then my mom explained when he was a young boy, his brothers would say that the Turkish war there was a war, and the Russians came into his Finnish town and took all the young men and told them, go fight the Turks, and gave them no weapons. So it was kind of a genocide of sorts, and just sent them to their death. And so my grandfather came, and he came because he had a brother in Duluth.
So we did some research real quick, and that war that Jean is talking about is, Katie?
It's actually the 10th Russo-Turkish War. And it was
a lot of that.
1877 to 1878. So we figure he probably had some older siblings that might have been involved with that. Yeah.
And his family talked about that a lot.
Wow.
Yeah. And he used to tell a story, and he was a very quiet man. Oscar, my grandfather, was like, he had broad shoulders, and he was in constructions, and he built houses in Minnesota on the Iron Range, and he had like ice blue eyes, and my mother always said he was very handsome. That's what won his wife over. But he would barely speak, and as a young girl I always wanted to be close to him. He was my grandfather, so I would try to like ask him questions about history, and then he would open up and he'd tell me about the war. So this must have been in his family's history, how there was a big rock in the village or near the village, and he said his brothers had a knife that he did not confiscate. They were not confiscated, and he was able to stab some of the people coming around this big rock that didn't see him on each side, and he told the story so well. So he was saved. He killed the other people who I think were Turkish, and he escaped, and the whole family just decided staying in Finland was not a good idea because of the Russian influence and control.
Wow.
So, but so that was, and then the other part about the Catholicism, which really shocked me. I was a young girl in the 70s, and Sally Field was in the Flying Nun.
Right. I remember that.
And we would go visit every summer to Duluth, and so we'd switch on the Flying Nun, and he would walk over quietly and just shut that down. And I'm like, what?
Now we know why.
Yeah. So he, so he just, those were the two, groups that for some reason, and I didn't ask too many questions, but later in life, I think that it made itself clear why.
The other thing is, I know like in Russian, they use the same word for brother and cousin.
Yeah. Oh, it could be. Yeah, just family members that had gone through that. Yeah. So
Katie has studied Russian.
Oh.
Yes.
Oh, have you? Nice. Do you speak Russian?
I do, yeah.
Nice. I love that. That's amazing. But you are not Russian.
I am not Russian, no.
But you just studied it. Yeah, that is fascinating. That's a hard language.
It is, but I love it.
Oh. Yet. No, I'm kidding. That's all I know.
Okay, so we're going to figure out the death date of Oscar.
Yes. My grandfather died in 1983, and he was born in 1895.
And so Oscar, the Grouch, but not really. I'm sure he's a very fine gentleman. But what was his last name?
Oh,
and then what was his real last name?
Yeah. When he came over, his name was Milakoski. And then when he came through, and I'm not even sure what port, where did he land? I don't know. He went right to Duluth, and I thought my mom told me, I'm sorry, I didn't write it down, but whoever he received him just said, nope. That's way too long. No Milakoski. It's going to be Koski. So they renamed him Koski, and that was it. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So now about that, because that's how us genealogists were told through the years, is that when they have come through Ellis Island or some sort of port, that the clerk changes the name. Now that's kind of an urban myth that it's mainly the passengers. His shortened last name, and that he went through life in the U.S.
Koski. Yes.
Spell that.
Koski.
Got it.
I wanted to say one thing, though, because it really impressed me as women. My grandmother was involved in a jazz trio before she married Oscar the Grouch.
Oh, wow.
And she would perform at wealthy people's dinner parties, tea parties, lawn parties. Yeah. So back in the 20s, so Dagmar, she played piano. Yeah. I think my mom said she sang sometimes. And it was two other men and my grandmother. And then they would get paid to attend these little parties. Wow, and they would be the entertainment. So I was really proud of her for finding that. Like, that's pretty innovative.
You see, that's what I was just saying earlier. It's like you don't know what they've done in their youth, when they were 20s or 30s.
Yes.
So was that before she married?
Yes,
Okay.
before she married Oscar. She was a school teacher by then, and they got married.
Yeah.
And then, fast forward to my mom, a young woman, 17, 18. My mom she's alive. She's 85. She has a beautiful soprano voice. And so she would sing at school, sing at their Lutheran church in Duluth, Minnesota. And one of her voice teachers told my grandparents, oh my goodness, Martha, she has a beautiful voice. She should pursue this. And this is what they said. Absolutely not. She can be a school teacher. She can be a nurse. That's it. My mom became a nurse, postpartum nurse for 30 years. She loved it. But the point is that was off the table immediately. They just didn't see the practicality.
And so you see the secret side is that maybe they did want a black belt in something,
Yes.
Because if you're only limited to doing 2 career moves. All right. So we're going to swing over to the other side of the tree. We're going to change branches here. And we're going to talk about Jean's paternal side, which we started to, and then we all got distracted, which is easy to do. So let's see. Okay, let's go back a minute. So how do you pronounce and what is your main name, which would be your paternal side?
Yes, that's Tyack, and it's spelled Tyacke.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have never heard of that name.
My dad said it means on the hill. It's Gaelic. And there are Tyacks in Canada, England. We've looked up, there's a few in America, maybe relatives, because, some people from England went to Canada, so it could be,
Wow.
But it rhymes with kayak. That's
okay.
and
That's a good way
kids,
to... Right. That's a good way of saying it.
And they thought I was part Eskimo because they just associated Tyack with kayak.
Right.
Yeah.
So talk about Alfred.
Oh, yes. Okay. So growing up, my grandfather, Alfred Leonard Tyack, and they called him Len for short, he would tell everybody, I was in World War I was buried alive in the trenches, Battle of the Somme. I convalesced in Scotland at Glamis Castle, Glamis. I was there for 6 months, and the Queen Mother at the time, she was a young teenage woman, and the royal family, their contribution, just like in Downton Abbey, they were supporting the soldiers who were convalescing, so she would play croquet with the soldiers who were there. Wow. And so my grandfather would love to tell that story because it was a big deal. He was one of 3 men that were buried alive in his trench, and he was the only one dug out alive.
That's an amazing story by itself,
Yeah. So and then he went on to Scotland, and then after that, he got out. And I did bring a plaque. Now, I just wanted to...
Well, let's go back. Wait, because I'm fascinated by the buried alive thing.
Yes.
So how did he get out? Did someone, soldier?
Another soldier, a fellow soldier dug him out. And the man that saved his life, my dad in Wellington, will remember the man's name, I don't remember, lived in England. And when my father went into the Air Force, we were stationed in England outside of Cambridge for 4 years. My grandma and grandfather came to live for 1 year, and he met the man's son who dug him out and saved his life.
Wow.
Yes.
That's a great story.
Yes, the man who dug him out had passed, but his son traveled by train to where we lived outside of Cambridge and spent, I think, a couple of nights with us and got to meet my grandfather.
Right. That's
That's
a neat story. Wow. Yeah. Did he get claustrophobic after that?
He said he was shell-shocked. That was the term at the time. He said he was definitely constipated. That he used to tell us that. He was like, I couldn't go forever. His body was in such shock.
Yeah. Really? Okay.
He would talk about it to a degree, but not a lot of emotional part. More the physical, like I was buried, he dug me out, I got to do this. But he didn't talk about like a lot of the physical attributes of it. And he didn't talk about his friends who died. He would tell us funny stories. Like he was not an officer. He was in the Royal Fusiliers. And I think they were the ones that did maybe the cannons. I guess they shot the cannons. That's what I always thought. Yeah. But he was in the Royal Fusiliers, and he was like a private. Okay. So the officers had much better food. They're here in the trenches. It's dirty. It's rainy. It's starving. They're hungry. So he said that he stole a ham from the officers' mess tent. And the officers were coming by and he stuck it in a rat hole because there were tons of rats in the trenches. And he told my brothers and I that when he went to retrieve it, it was gone. The rats ate it.
That's karma.
Yeah, that's right. He did tell us that there was a fire in one of the towers at Glamis Castle while he was there. And he was the one, he swears, he's the one that spotted the smoke. And so he took the credit for, putting, alerting everybody. And they had a bucket brigade. And the Queen Victoria, I think that, the young woman, Queen Elizabeth's mother, I think it was Victoria, she was on the bucket brigade and they all put out the fire. So that, and that was actually verified because when my grandfather used to visit us here from Duluth, there was a historical British historian, and he wrote a book, and he interviewed my grandfather, and it does correlate with a fire at Glamis Castle.
Wow.
And that, I guess, would have been 1916. So the story about this, my grandfather, so he was getting sickly. He was like 99. He wanted to be 100 so bad. And he wanted to have a big party. But he did pass away September 10th, right before he turned 100. So, yeah, he would have been 100 February the 8th of the following year. So anyway, when he was getting sick that summer, I said, Grandpa, I love this plaque. And this is a beautiful, I showed you rendering. It's all aged. And it's just a black and white pen rendering a certificate from the City of London, 1914 to 1919. And there's a ribbon at the bottom, very faded, for the men who fought for England. And I remember asking my grandfather, could I have a medal? He had a couple of medals downstairs on his workbench in the basement. And he's like, nope, your brother Scott, your brother Tim, your brother Robert. I'm like, I said, Grandpa, but I find it really interesting. And he said, okay, so if you flip the picture over, you'll see my name written on the back. It says to Jean. And because he said, okay. So he just put to Jean and he left it there. So when he did pass, I got this plaque, this certificate, which is framed with glass over it. And I love it. I treasure it. Yeah. And I brought it. I work in an elementary school. So from time to time, I have students who are, first through fifth grade is where the age group, but they love history. They love war, just finding out about World War I. And so I've brought that plaque many times to show these young students.
Gotcha.
I like that. It's it says 1914 for services rendered, and then 1919. It has all the different theaters listed at the top, like Palestine, Africa, France, Belgium, Salonika, and Italy. Salonika.
So say it again. What was the city?
Thessalonica.
Okay, well, easy for you to say. Even on the second time. And so I was going to ask you, what did you call your grandparents?
I think I oscillated between grandfather and grandpa.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it was mostly grandpa. I think it was. I was born in 1965 and grew up in the 70s. Yeah. So I think I did. But there were times I think I called him grandfather. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I called my grandparents grandma and grandpa.
Okay.
What about you, Katie?
Yeah, grandma and grandpa.
Yeah. I think that was probably what I leaned.
We had a discussion a couple weeks ago with some other people in the back room, and what are some names for your grandparents, and what do people? So I think I'm going to start asking that from now on.
That's a great question
because it's what do you call your grandparents? Yeah.
My aunt and uncle are Nana and Pop Pop.
Yes, I've heard that too.
My uncle was like, I'm going to be Pop Pop.
Well, I have my great grandmother I called Nana. So
did you?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And I don't know if that's to distinguish.
I was gonna tell about two more memories.
Yeah.
Okay. Just because you're jogging my, because talking about your grandma and just where we've lived, and I retelled my stories to my students all the time.
Good.
And the other day I was telling someone when I was in third grade, we moved from England to Selma, Alabama, Prattville, Selma area. So 1973. There was no base housing available, so we had to rent a house off base. I think again it was Prattville, I'm pretty sure. And the people who owned the land, it was called the Blackman's Farm. That was the name. And there was a house that we rented, a ranch house, and there was the big farmhouse, and they had horses and a barn. And when I turned 8 years old, my best friend at the local in Millbrook, Alabama, was a little black girl named Debbie. She was from that town. And she and I just hit it off. We were best friends. And I said, I'm having a slumber party, and I'm going to see if you can come. So my parents had to ask the owners of Blackman Farm is it okay if my daughter has Debbie come because of her race? They had to ask permission.
Wow.
And the answer was absolutely not. So this would have been 1974. I think we moved back in 73. This was 74.
Right.
And what they said is the only people of color on this farm are either babysitters or house cleaners or maids, but that's it.
Wow.
So then I went back to school, very humbled and very, I mean, I was going to be I understood though, and I was embarrassed.
Yeah.
And I said, Debbie, I'm really sorry. And she goes, oh, no worries. She already knew. I mean, I feel like she already knew it was not going to be a go. And so that was very educational for me.
Yeah, it was.
And then the other thing is we lived there during Chuck Colson,
Oh.
Watergate. I remember watching Nixon and the Watergate because we were on a military base later. And I remember seeing men in orange prison suits. And I asked my mom and dad, and they're like, oh, yeah, those are the men from Watergate. They were assigned to Maxwell Air Force Base. I'm pretty sure there was a prison. There was a federal prison somewhere in the vicinity. And they were like doing cleanup detail one day on the base. And my dad told me, those are the guys from Watergate. Isn't that interesting?
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. We could fact check that, but I'm pretty sure. Yeah, because I think we had to live 1 year off base. So that would have been 1974-ish when I saw that. Yeah. But I thought that was that. And so I still recount that, like the difference. And then, sadly enough, as we moved around being in the military in Minnesota, there was still a different kind of feeling toward other cultures. In Duluth, it was more toward, I would say more toward the Native American population, which now, that was in 1981. So now it's really changed. Like there's a lot of casinos and there's more respect and more respect for the people that came from Duluth before the immigrants. But I remember thinking, wow, I just came from Alabama and it was, that tension between the two different cultures of the black and the white. But now I'm in Duluth, Minnesota, and it's a new tension with the the immigrant people who are like Scandinavian, English, German, and the Native American people that live there. So so I thought, I don't know, glass half empty. I'm kidding. I'm like, you can't escape it. I just feel like in a lot of
Right.
it's just a different players, different
Exactly.
It was kind of the same in central Iowa. There's Meskwaki that have a settlement there. It's a settlement. They purchased their own land back. Wow. It is not
it's not
reservation. It's a settlement. So, but people were always like, oh, those Meskwaki, and it's like, you know what we put them through, and they were, run off their land. They came back illegally, bought their own land back. Like, give them a break.
Yes.
And now they support your economy with their casinos. So shush.
Okay, so this tea party was quite fun.
Yes,
it was.
So it was a learning experience, and we shared a lot of interesting tidbits. This has been a great inaugural patron podcast.
Yes.
Very much
episode.
so. Thank you.
So we
Thank you
appreciate
for
it,
having
Jean,
me.
very much. Yeah, you're welcome.
This was
And I bet
wonderful.
we can have Jean back again.
I would
yeah.
love to.
Yeah, and I bet you'll be on board.
Okay, I will be here.
Right. Okay, because we'll talk about other
Thank
things.
you. Yes. Yeah.
Genealogy related.
Yes.
So we say this disclaimer. So here's the disclaimer, as you all know. The three of us, that's Cindy, Katie, and myself, are not certified genealogists. We're just three people who like to sit around and have a chat about genealogy. We hope that some or all of this information helps you along the way to finding your family. So we thank you for listening to another episode of Genealogy Pep Talk, a podcast. Okay, say goodbye, ladies.
Goodbye,
Goodbye, ladies.